The fact of the matter is, a lot of times people like to think that the more people that are in the room, the more money you're going to make. And that is false.
Well, hello and welcome back to the Amanda Kaufman Show. I am so excited to have you here today, Patty. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited. Every conversation I have with you is a great one. This is one of my favorite topics, talking about how we can help coaches. So I'm excited for the conversation.
Yes, me too. I love it. So, dear listener, Patty Farmer is an award-winning marketing and media strategist. She's a dynamic international speaker, podcast host, magazine publisher, and seven-figure event producer based right here in Dallas, Texas. With her proven strategies, she helps entrepreneurs attract, engage, and convert their ideal clients with confidence and clarity. And whether she is on the stage, behind the mic, or coaching one-on-one, Patty's energy, and I'm going to definitely punctuate that, her energy and her insights inspire action and drive success. She loves working with service-based women entrepreneurs, small business owners, coaches, content creators to help them to identify their target audience, communicate their value, package their expertise into profitable, I love that word, products and services. And Patty's mission is to help her clients design the lifestyle that they desire and build a business that supports it, not the other way around, ensuring that everything they do brings them joy and feeds their soul while maximizing results, relationships, and revenue. Boy, oh boy, I feel so lucky to have you here, Patty. So I'm just so curious, what motivates you to focus so much on the joy of building a business as opposed to simply the task list and the profits and all that kind of thing? Why joy?
I think for me, the reason why is because we didn't become a CEO, right? We became a CEO because we want money freedom, time freedom, all the things of why we want to do it. And I think a lot of times what happens with coaches and entrepreneurs is they become firefighters, right? They become firefighters instead of being the CEOs that they wanted to be in the beginning. So it has really become my mission for them to be able to say, let's stop having to be a firefighter, go back to being a CEO, so that you can just have this whole joy of why you did it in the first place, whatever your reasons are, because everybody's reasons are different, right? And so whatever they are, let's design that and let's have you have lots and lots of joy.
I love that. And, when you see people running around like a firefighter, without necessarily having the support, what are some of the things you notice that they spend too much time on or they're maybe too worried about?
I think the most important one is they think they have to have their finger on everything, right? Like it's kind of, they're the bottleneck. They become the bottleneck because they feel like it's their business and they want everything to go and they don't really delegate. Or even if they do delegate as it goes up the top, they still want to have their finger in there, right? And when they do that, it's like it takes so much time. It's kind of like find good talent and then trust them, do what you do best, and then let them do what you hire them for that they do best as well. And it is something that I have to tell you, people struggle with a lot, and sometimes they don't even realize that they do.
That's so interesting. And I vibe with that. I resonate with that. I know like the delegation piece is very challenging because, I think another reason why we become entrepreneurs and CEOs is because and founders is we want to create something that's never been created before. But I think that can almost create like an anxiety about like, ooh, well, what if it doesn't work? What if it's not good enough? Or what if this thing that I've built falls apart? Those thoughts are super common. Curious, like what are you seeing work the best for people that you work with in terms of marketing and attracting clients? Like what's working really well right now?
I think the biggest thing is that I truly believe with all my heart that relationships are the currency in today's business environment, right? Backed up with that, the second thing is attention. Attention is the currency. So really, you need to be able to be building relationships and making sure that we're in a crowded marketplace right now and there's a lot of noise. How are you standing out and really commanding that attention? So that's getting really, really clear on your messaging and what the value is that you bring to the marketplace, and then surrounding yourself with the right power partners, so to speak, that can help you get out in front of new markets all the time, right? And the best way to do that, obviously, is to build relationships with people who are already catering to that market.
That's so good. I love that, and that's part of why we're supporting each other as well. Is we have complementary and sometimes overlapping skills, but your person that you love to work with, you do things in a particular way, and I do things in a particular way, and that collaboration I think is super important. Something I hear a lot of people in our community talk about is just concerns about like you just said, it's so busy, it's a saturated marketplace is something that I hear all the time. I take a bit of exception to that because I have done the research to understand that actually, coaching is a growing market, as in there's more demand than there ever was before. What would you say to somebody who is actually concerned about, maybe not being able to stand apart, or maybe there's somebody who's like really introverted and they don't see themselves as being somebody that's going to jump up and, say, hey, pay attention to me. Like, what would you tell them?
Well, the first thing I tell them is that if they did their research right now, 1.6 million searches are done on Google every single month for people looking for a coach. 1.6 million searches. I mean, that's amazing. So people are looking. So I think all you really need to do is to ask yourself, what is it that you do a little bit differently? What differentiates you? And a lot of times people don't think about it, and like for me, what I feel like differentiates me is because I always start with lifestyle, right? Everything for me goes back to let's design the lifestyle first, right? I mean, look at the things that you're teaching about your first 5 clients, right? So what is the thing that makes you different? And it is usually the thing that brings you joy. If you really think about it, it's like, there was a question that people used to ask a long time ago. I always thought it was a silly question, but I think it's really not so silly as we think. What would you do if somebody wasn't paying you for it? That you love it so much that you would do it even if you weren't getting paid for it. Now, first of all, don't do it if you're not getting paid for it. However, but in your heart, what brings you that joy though, right? That you just love it. And for me, I can always tell, and I don't know if this happens to you or to anybody who's listening, but for me, when I'm talking to somebody and like the hair on my arms I kind of get this little tingle, and it's like, oh my gosh, I want to roll up my sleeves. I want to get in their business. I know that I can help them, right? And I know what my expertise is and what I can really do. My superpower, so to speak, is really monetizing, because if you monetize the things that you do, that gives you more time to be able to do the things that bring you joy, right? So just to kind of ask yourself, what are those things? And it may seem like a teeny little thing, but then you can expand on that and start saying, oh, well, how could I develop that? What could I do? Or who do I know, right, that's in the marketplace that maybe we could do that together, and we could just plant this seed and it could blossom. But you want to make sure that you're doing the thing you want to do and not just trying to be like some other coach that you're like, oh yeah, I like what they say, so I'm going to try to be them. Because no matter what you do, you can't be them, because they're them and you're you, and people want to be able to work with you for the unique person that you are. So I always want to say, just be unapologetically you, and there will be people who want to work with you.
See, this is actually one of the reasons why I love working with coaches that are earlier in their client acquisition journey, and they're like learning how to sell and they're learning how to market and they're learning how to step into it. Is selfishly, as a coach, I love seeing that power, like seeing people activate into trusting themselves and developing that confidence that only comes from daring yourself to actually step into those things. And I call it the decision, right? It's this decision that you're going to do the thing. And I still remember my own decision. When I was starting my business, all I saw online were the Barbies and the bros, like just people. And this is not knock if you're listening and you're like, hey, I'm blonde and tall and beautiful. Amazing. Good for you. That's not me though, right? Like use it, totally use it. But I didn't have that to work with. So I allowed my deficiencies to define what I was not allowed to have for a really long time. And I love what you just said about being unapologetically you. I was like, you know what? I'm a mom in suburbia with 4 kids who wanted to leave corporate America and to do coaching more. Like, that's it. That's who I am. You can take it, you can leave it, but it's not actually up to me to make that decision for you. And it's amazing what happened after that, like just how receptive people were. And also, my business became a lot more fun.
No, I had this client once who did look like Barbie. She was like, she really looked like she could be a Barbie doll. And she's like, well, who's going to take me seriously? And we built this whole campaign for her around be your own Barbie. Like it
So
was
good.
the elephant in the room. And we just built this whole marketing thing about, I can help you be your own Barbie. And it was very, very successful for her. But when I'm thinking about what you said, I remember my journey, and one of the things for me was when I decided to step into speaking. Like, I didn't really want to be a speaker. I was a trainer, and they're not the same thing, right? I'm an educator at heart, and I really didn't want to be a public speaker. And when I decided to be a speaker by accident, which is a whole nother story, but when I decided to do it, I literally got sick, like violently ill for like 18 months every time before I would get on the stage. Like every single time, and I couldn't figure it out. And I hired a coach. Why it took me that long, I don't know. But I hired a specific speaking coach. And she said to me, she says, well, Patty, you're successful as far as the money, right? Like you're making money, whatever. Why are you still sick? And I said, I don't know. So she asked me a couple questions. And here is what I found out. That for me, I felt like I wasn't, Patricia Tripp. Like I didn't want to wear a soap opera dress. And like it wasn't who I was. And she said one thing that set me free and changed the trajectory of my business. And what she said was, Patty, it isn't you changing you to get in front of people that you think want to hear what you want to hear. It's that you getting in front of stages and getting in front of people who want to hear it the way you say it. And that set me free and changed everything in my business. Once I actually accepted that I don't want to be somebody who gets on the stage and, makes a point and takes a pregnant pause and wears a soap opera dress. That wasn't me, right? And nobody's going to get that went from me. Like I am who I am. This is me. But I will tell you, Amanda, the greatest compliment I've ever received, and I hear it over and over and over again, is when people say, you know what, Patty, you're exactly the same. If I meet you in person, on the stage, on a call, whatever, you are you and you're exactly that. Because haven't we all met somebody where like, you followed them and then you meet them and you're like, whoa, they're not anything like what they perceive to be? Who wants to have to try to do that? I am me unapologetically. Either I fit for you and you love it, great. If I don't, let me know and I'll find somebody else for you because I'm sure I know that person. Tell me what you're looking for and I'll connect you to them.
I love that. Like, I have a dear friend, and he calls that authentic confidence. Just this, because there's the confidence that's projected, like you said. That it's like, well, I think I'm supposed to show up like this, so I'm gonna sort of show up like that, but it doesn't feel congruent and true for me. So you end up with that duality, that kind of masking effect. And I'll just vouch right here and now. One of the reasons why I connected with you so quickly, I got back into in-person networking, which I had not done for years, was because I saw so much consistency. And I'll tell you a little secret. It wasn't just consistency of when I saw you. It's because I had a friend who told me a little bit about you before I met you. So I had like this consistency that it's like, okay, like I can trust this person and I want to spend more time with them because frankly, I think a lot of people are really struggling with showing up as their full selves. How important do you think that really is for a coach?
I think it's really important because, first of all, if you're not being who you are, you're not going to be able to keep it up. You know what I mean? It's going to shine through somewhere. Like, you know what I mean? I mean, it's kind of like back in when you were a little kid, right? You told a little fib and you were like, oh my gosh, now I got to try to remember the lie I told so I don't get in trouble. I mean, it always comes out, right? So the fact of the matter is, if you just make the decision to say, I'm going to be unapologetically me, right? I mean, you don't have to try to remember who that is because it is just you. And people will either, like, that will literally attract them or it'll repel them. But I have to tell you, as a coach, I love that because I don't want people to be like in the, oh, I don't know, kind of like, I want them to either be able to say, yes, you are my person, or no, you are not. I mean, now sometimes there's no, not now, and there's reasons for that. But really, honestly, I just want them to make a decision. Am I the person for you? Am I not the person for you? Because I can help you either way. Like I said, I can introduce you to somebody else. But there's nothing worse than being in that whole space in the middle where they hem and haw because they just don't want to tell you that you're not the person. I'm like, you know what? I would rather somebody say no. Just no is great because right after no,
Full
guess what's after
sentence.
that? Next.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
No
absolutely a
is
full
next.
sentence. I recently launched the First Five Club. And at first I was like really nervous because it was quite different than anything I had ever offered my community and my list. And I got to tell you something, like as soon as I started sending the emails, I saw a spike in the unsubscribes. And I was like, oh, see, they don't like it. But you know what I did is I immediately looked at the clicks. I'm like, but I'm getting clicks too. And the people that are clicking email after email. They're really thinking about this. Like, this seems to be. So I decided, I was like, you know what? I have conviction that this is the right thing that I'm going to do right now. And it's okay if people want to get off the bus. Right. And I got really excited for the people who were intentional about staying. And I think, one thing I thought maybe you might have a really good perspective on, Patty, is what do you say to somebody who is a beginner coach and they're worried that their lack of experience is going to prevent them from ever getting a client? What would you say to them?
Say that as long as you've done your work and you're you and you're not just regurgitating somebody else, you're going to be okay. I think the only problem there is when somebody's new and they're regurgitating somebody else's information, because then they're going to run out of information because they're only going to have whatever it is that they have from that person. And then they're going to be like, uh-oh, what do I do now? Right? So I would say make sure that you really stay who you are and then do your work, hire a mentor and or coach yourself, because coaches have coaches, right? I don't know about you, but I have like 2 or 3 of them usually at a time, depending upon what it is that I am doing. And I think that is really important. So that would be my answer. But I want to say something about what you just said too, is when you were saying about the unsubscribes. I have to tell you, we've probably all heard that expression, I'm sure a lot of times, is where people will say, oh, if it gives you a stomach ache or makes you sick to your stomach, that's when you know you're supposed to do it. Like when you're so uncomfortable, when you have that discomfort. That is true. But I'm going to tell you, when you see unsubscribes and things like that happen, that is valid as well. And here's why. Monetization is my specialty. And here's why. People pay to be on your email list, whether you realize or not. They don't pay, but you do, right? Because most CRMs are on tiered, depending upon how many people you have on there. So if somebody is on your email list to get some freebie or something they just wanted, or they wanted to watch your funnel, or whatever the reason is, and they're actually not interested and stuff, it's cost you money for them to be there. I would rather them unsubscribe. So I find when I get that little spike of unsubscribes like that and stuff, oh good, they're opting out because this isn't for them. Great, because you know that it's a percentage game, just like the algorithm, right? So in actuality, that should tell you, oh my gosh, I am onto something, because when you want people to either love what you're doing or go, you know what, that's not for me, I'm out. That's the things that you actually want. Either I'm in or I'm out.
Exactly. I know when I started as a coach, I was so people pleasy. I was so worried about offending everybody. And part of it was I'm Canadian. I can't help it. We're very polite. But I think the other piece of it was that I had been up to that point in my career a very strong introvert.
So hard
I
to
got all
picture
my
that.
recharge time by being in isolation and alone. And, so when I started, my list was so small. I had like 8 people on it. It was like so small. And, I think a lot of people are really afraid of that small space, being seen to start small. And, I think that's probably one of the best advice I got from one of my coaches is like, never be afraid to be seen to start small, because most people
What
won't
I would
even
say
start.
here would be my thing I would say there. It doesn't matter how many people are in the room. Doesn't matter how many people come to your podcast. Doesn't matter how many people on your email list. If you treat every single one of them like they are the one person that needed to be there, that needed to hear what you said, that's all that matters. When I first started doing my 7-figure events that I do in New York, the very first time I had 14 people. That's it. That's all that showed up was 14 people.
I had 8 at mine, my very first one.
Right? I'm
And
like
what's
going, oh
crazy?
my
I couldn't
gosh,
get
only 4.
people locally to come to the event at all. I was like networking like crazy. Everybody was busy that weekend. No one could make it, but I still had 8 people come. And those 8 people got on planes to be in the room with me, which that was like, that blew my mind.
That, but I always say this all the time, and it happens in-person networking too. In-person, virtual, on your email list, everywhere. The fact of the matter is the people that are there are the most important people that are there. And for some reason, a lot of times people like to think that the more people that are in the room, the more money you're going to make. And that is false. Absolutely
Not
false.
true.
Sometimes having less people in the room, so now you actually get to really hone in on them. Like I know one of the things that I love is when coaches, this is one of my favorite things, is when a coach will offer like office hours or Q&A or whatever where everybody can come in. And then you show up and there's only 2 people. And at first you're like, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it's like I just get one-on-one coaching right now. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I love it when we go to those things and everybody else just puts their questions in there and I go there and I show up. I mean, that is such an opportunity to be there because you don't know how many other people. So I'm going to tell you, it isn't about the big number. I have closed rooms where I've had, very small amounts of people where there were 25 people in the room, and made multiple 6 figures. And then I've been in rooms where I've had hundreds of people and made the same multi-6 figure, and it was a lot more work, right? So the number doesn't matter. People need to just get past that.
I really, really love that. And that's been my shared experience as well. It's more about the quality of the relationship that you have than anything else. This is so good. Well, Patty, like if people wanted to follow you, like what's the best way to do that?
Well, they can go to my website, which is pattyfarmer.com, Patty with a Y, pattyfarmer.com. Everything's there. Magazine, podcast, all the ways that you can get a hold of me are all there in one place to make it nice and easy, all my social, etc.
I love that. I love that. And I understand you have a little gift for people that want to check out your business assessment. Is that right?
Absolutely. So one of the things I feel like kind of goes with what we're talking about, I mean, as it should, right? But I have this business assessment that's 3 minutes or less, and it will literally tell you, here's where you're doing great. Here's where you might want to make a few changes, and here's a few things you could do for massive growth. Like I said, it takes less than 3 minutes, but it will help you to know that. And it also will help you to know, to look at those things and see, oh, here's where I might want to bring in a partner. Here's where I might want to collaborate with somebody else. It does a lot of things in there, so it'll give you a lot of information. And to get that, it's super easy. They can just go to m3bizquiz.com. So m3bizquiz.com. M3 stands for Marketing Media Money, which is my brand. But m3bizquiz.com gets them there, and they'd be amazed at how much they'll find out about them and their business in 3 minutes.
I love that. I love that. If you've ever experienced any level of overwhelm with your business, or you're kind of feeling like, am I working on the right thing? What should I be focused on next? That's such a valuable tool. I love it. Well, Patty, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love every conversation that you and I have. I love that we overlap. I think that makes that conversations and so much more enriching and deep. So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I absolutely agree. I love it as well. And hey, listener, if you're not subscribed to the show, make sure you smash that subscribe button before you go. And hey, I'll bet you've got 2 or 3 friends that would really benefit from this conversation. Go ahead and forward the link to them. Send them a text, send them a DM, share this episode with them. And don't forget to leave a 5-star review so that if people are choosing what to listen to, they're more likely to choose this show. I think Patty really brought it. And we will also make sure that we include all of Patty's links in the show notes as well. And thank you so much for making this show a part of your day. We'll see you next time.